Buying or leasing a Tesla isn't like getting your hands on a regular vehicle. Sure, they're incredibly popular, but your first Tesla comes with its own set of quirks and potential pitfalls that can feel somewhat overwhelming if you aren't ready for them. So in today's video, I'll be sharing around 10 mistakes that I personally made when getting my first two Teslas, what you need to watch out for, and what to avoid. Let's jump in. One of the biggest points of confusion I see with Tesla buyers is the difference between the federal tax credit and the lease credit that is in the United States. So if you're buying a Tesla outright, your eligibility for the $7,500 federal tax credit depends on several factors: your income, the vehicle's MSRP, and even where its battery materials are sourced. You'll need to make sure all of those boxes are checked before you know whether you qualify or not. And realistically, this isn't all too complicated to figure out. You can find this information right on Tesla's vehicle configuration webpage. That said, unfortunately, Trump's new big beautiful bill is terminating all federal tax credits for EVs across the board as of September 30th, 2025. So if you're in the market for a Tesla or any other EV for that matter, make sure to buy before that date, as $7,500 isn't something to pass up on. Leasing, however, works a little bit differently, where thanks to the commercial vehicle loophole, leased Teslas automatically qualify for that $7,500 credit, which means you don't have to worry as much about the income or sourcing restrictions. But there are two big catches here. First, and this is a big one, that loophole is also set to expire on September 30th, 2025 through that same bill that Trump is pushing forward. And then second, if you're leasing through a third-party lessor, you need to make sure that they're passing that full $7,500 credit onto you, as it's the leaser who receives the tax credit, not the lessee. And I wanted to mention this as some leasers try to, not pass this on to their customers. So it's crucial to confirm in writing before you sign anything that you'll be receiving that tax credit. Another mistake I see all the time is trusting the after savings price on Tesla's website when you're shopping and configuring your car. On the surface, it looks like you're getting a much cheaper price point for your vehicle, but that number can be somewhat misleading. All right, so by default, Tesla's online configurator automatically checks boxes for that $7,500 tax credit and for 5 years worth of estimated gas savings. It also leaves out things like destination and order fees, estimated taxes, and other costs that can add up very quickly, especially depending on which state or province you live in. Now, the gas savings calculation, it isn't entirely wrong, but it's presented in a way that makes the car feel quite a bit cheaper than it actually will be in reality. And that's before factoring in things like supercharging rates, which in some states are even close to the cost of gasoline if you're not charging at home. For example, here in Quebec, charging at home costs me about $1 per 100 kilometers driven, but that's not the case everywhere, of course. So you're going to want to take the time to calculate your own charging costs based on your local rates. Insurance is another factor a lot of buyers overlook. I've heard from plenty of Tesla owners whose premiums have jumped significantly over the past couple of years, sometimes enough to make total ownership cost on a monthly or even just total basis higher than a comparable gas vehicle. Just a comment the other day on my channel, someone was saying it's about $300 per month for I believe it was a Model Y. I'll put that comment on screen, but I mean, that's a lot of money. $300 a month times 12 months, you're looking at a couple $1,000s just in insurance. So before you make a decision, go through the numbers manually yourself, uncheck the boxes for credits and savings, add in all the fees, and get quotes for charging and insurance ahead of time to know where you stand monthly in regards to how much you'll be spending on your Tesla. That way, the price you see is going to be the actual price you'll be spending. Another point you don't want to overlook is the true cost of leasing a Tesla if you're going with the leasing route. It's not just the flat monthly payment that you see on paper, there are a lot of additional fees and variables that can add up quickly as well. Lease costs typically include an acquisition fee, registration fees, sales tax, and often your first month payment due at signing. And on top of that, you'll still be paying for, of course, insurance. And at the end of the lease, there's usually what's known as a disposition fee of around $395. I've seen a lot of people be subject to that on Reddit. I, up here in Canada, was not subject to that $395 disposition fee on my 2021 Model 3 when I returned it. Consider as well the extra mileage, right? Most Tesla leases come with a set annual mileage limit, like any lease really, and going over that will cost you about 25 cents per mile. So you might be able to purchase additional miles in advance if you know you're going to be busting it, say midway through your lease, but that's not always an option or a guarantee. So if you're consistently driving more than your limit, those overage charges can get very expensive. And if you ever decide to end your lease early, expect early termination fees, of course. These can vary depending on how much time is left on your lease, the results of an inspection, and even the vehicle's current market value. My advice, don't just look at the monthly cost once again on Tesla's configurator. Create a spreadsheet that factors in everything: the upfront fees, insurance, mileage charges, potential wear and tear costs, and the total that you'd pay if you ended early. That will give you a realistic view of what leasing will actually cost you. And speaking of wear and tear, Tesla has a detailed guide on what they consider normal versus excessive damage and wear and tear. Review it at least 3 months before your lease ends so that you have time to take care of any repairs yourself. Tesla's repair rates are often much higher than a trusted local shop. The point being that by planning ahead, you'll avoid being blindsided by surprise charges when your lease is up. Even though Tesla recently lowered the price of buying full self-driving outright to now $8,000, that is still a big chunk of change, and many drivers don't realize how it stacks up against the subscription option on a monthly basis. So since 2024, the subscription has been priced at $99 per month, which means buying full self-driving outright costs the equivalent of around 6.7 years worth of subscription payments. So look, if you've got the cash and plan to keep your Tesla long term, that might make sense, but for most drivers, especially those who don't use full self-driving daily, it's not exactly a must buy. Personally, I just subscribe for a month here and there if I'm taking a longer road trip and then cancel when I'm back to mostly city driving the next month. That flexibility makes a lot more sense for my usage and probably most people watching. One thing I'm not a fan of is that Tesla locks certain features like automatic parking, both parallel and just in a regular parking lot, behind the FSD paywall, which I think is ridiculous. Many other automakers include that feature as standard, and I think it should come with the car from the factory. There's also the fact that your Tesla, like any car, isn't going to last forever, and Tesla only allows you to transfer a fully paid for FSD purchase to another vehicle one single time. After that, you'd have to buy it all over again, making it a very expensive piece of software with limited lifespan value. The good news though is that Tesla currently offers a 30-day free trial of FSD for drivers in the US and Canada, and that means you can test it without committing to either the full $8,000 or even the monthly plan. For anyone who doesn't drive on a daily basis though, trying it out first is the best way to see if it's actually worth the cost. Newsflash, it is not. Just pay for the monthly subscription. All right, so let's talk about what happens when you actually start the process of buying your Tesla if you're using financing in any way. So understand that the promo APR rates that you'll be seeing on Tesla's website do vary every month, of course, but they're almost always going to be on the lower spectrum. Right now, for example, you can get a Tesla Model 3 at a 0% APR for the first 60 months with the purchase or transfer of full self-driving, or 2.49% weren't available without the purchase of full self-driving. What they don't tell you, however, is that these promo rates only apply when Tesla financing actually holds the paper. All right, if the app assigns you to another third party like Chase or Ally, those rates can jump all the way up, even into the double digits in some cases. So because of this, I'd always recommend always paying attention to your APR rate. And if you're not going with Tesla's financing in-house, either ask to switch to it or rate match before you go through with the e-signing. It's a good way to make sure that you're getting the best deal on your Tesla and that you're not going to be paying any extra in the future. Another mistake you don't want to make is overlooking the option to buy out your lease early if you're eligible. So with Tesla leasing, the $7,500 lease credit is built into the car's capitalized cost. That means that if you buy the car out within the first billing cycle, you could end up paying about $4,000 to $6,000 less than if you had purchased it with cash from the start. As someone who doesn't necessarily qualify for the $7,500 credit based on the factors you looked over earlier. This usually only works with Tesla's own leasing program though, not third-party lenders like Chase or Ally. But it's definitely worth checking out. Just request a payoff quote as soon as you get your first statement so you know exactly what it would take to own the car outright and what any penalties would be. Now, of course, if you already qualify for that $7,500 federal tax credit on a direct purchase, this won't really benefit you. But if you don't, this little hack could save you around $5,000 compared to paying cash up front, which is definitely something to consider. Next up, when taking delivery of your vehicle, make sure you do not skip out on a delivery inspection that you're conducting yourself on your vehicle. The thing is, once you accept delivery, sign all the papers, the car is officially yours. So of course, anything that is inside warranty will be covered, but any other non-covered smaller issues, you're basically going to be stuck with. That means if there are problems that could have been fixed right away, like say massive panel gaps, paint defects, loose trim, things that are missing in the car, you'll miss your chance for an easy, no-cost fix. So in order to do this, I would recommend using a delivery day checklist to go over all of the different details of the vehicle that you're going to be taking delivery of. Make sure to check out my $5 delivery day checklist for both the Model 3 and the Model Y down below in my video's description, as well as pinned comment over to my website. Now, to be fair though, Tesla's build quality has improved in 2025, and issues like panel gaps are far less common as manufacturing has improved. But it's still worth taking the time to inspect everything before you drive away, just to be sure that you're getting exactly what you paid for. Now, if you're buying a new Tesla, this usually isn't going to be a huge issue, but if you're shopping used, I actually have a full video breaking down the pros and cons of new versus used Teslas. You can check that one out right here and check it out after today's video. Now, here's the thing though that you don't want to overlook. Tesla's frequent price cuts and how they impact depreciation is going to be a big thing. For example, when Tesla discontinued the old Model Y in April, well, they quickly rolled out price cuts of up to $6,900, dropping some versions to as low as $38,600. That is a huge gap compared to the price of a brand new Model Y Juniper today. The reason for this mainly though has to do with depreciation. For example, a new Model S can lose anywhere from 30 to 40% of its value within the first 3 years, one of the steepest drops in the industry. So that is why timing your purchase is paramount. Watch for quarter end discounts or the release of new models, because both of these can trigger significant price adjustments. And keep in mind, Tesla typically won't reissue your order agreement if prices change before delivery. If that happens, you're pretty much stuck paying the higher price, and the value of your car can instantly drop, leaving you with a flat loss right out of the gate. If you've been researching buying a Tesla, you've probably seen that they have offered some pretty tempting deals in the past, things like free supercharging for life, 0% APR financing, and other incentives to encourage buyers to pull the trigger. The catch here though is that these promotions are constantly changing. Right now, they vary based on the model you're buying, the timing of your purchase, and broader trends in the EV market. And in most cases, you shouldn't expect to get one unless it's clearly stated in your purchase agreement or on the website, or you happen to buy right when a new promotion launches. So with federal incentives ending in September though, I really wouldn't be surprised if Tesla rolls out some aggressive offers in the US afterwards to keep sales strong. And that could effectively be their way of replacing that $7,500 incentive for buyers who missed the cutoff. One last cost to think about when buying or leasing a new Tesla is installing a home charger. So if you're leasing, Tesla might include a mobile connector, which is a portable charger that works with standard household outlets or even 240 volt outlets with an adapter. The problem is if you only have a standard household outlet, you'll be stuck charging at about 2 to 3 miles of range per hour unless you either find a nearby 240 volt outlet or pay to have one installed. So in this case, if you're buying outright, you're really going to want to install a level 2 charger and therefore have to factor in the cost of the charger itself and installation. So the wall connector itself runs about $420, but that doesn't include the electrician's fee or the cost of installing a new outlet if you don't already have one. So in total, installation can easily climb to over $1,000. And while you could rely on superchargers only, well, their charging rates are significantly higher than home charging, meaning you'll pay much more in charging over the lifetime of vehicle ownership instead of just paying the upfront cost and then charging at home. The good news though is that many states, provinces, and even local utility providers offer incentives or rebates for home charging installation. So it's really worth checking Tesla's website or your own local government's programs to see if you qualify and save on the setup costs. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I post once a week every Saturday, and if you want to support the channel even further, check out my links down below in this video's description and pinned comment over to my website to pick up a $5 delivery day checklist, or check out my Amazon storefront where you can buy some great Amazon accessories for your vehicle and I get a tiny kickback on your purchases. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.